Before I get on to explaining the problems I've had with my GoPro Hero 9, I'll just give you some background information for context. I'm not new to photography. I've been fairly serious about photography for about 40 years. I got my first serious camera in 1981, a Canon A1. This camera was introduced in 1978 and it was a technological tour de force at the time. As well as being very advanced, it was also extremely reliable. In all the years I've used it, I have never had one single problem. In 2000, I went to South Africa and I was aware that I might never get another chance to go. Although my Canon A1 had never let me down, it was 19 years old and the idea of being on safari with a broken camera was not one that appealed to me. I decided to buy a second body and bought a Canon T90. This was also an incredible camera. It was far superior to the A1 in every way, but with the same 100% Canon reliability. Later in 2000, I received one of the first ever digital cameras as a birthday gift. It was a Sony DSC P1. The technology was very new, but despite it being very expensive, it was a poor camera in many respects. After about a year, it went wrong and required a very expensive repair. After owning Canon cameras and never having a problem, my poor experience with the Sony camera only enhanced my opinion of the Canon brand. I started to build a digital SLR system in 2004 and naturally returned to Canon. First I bought a 10D and then upgraded to a 40D. Once again, both cameras performed flawlessly. After a few years using the 40D, I was considering another DSLR upgrade, but there was a problem. DSLR bodies are like bricks, and when you add 4 or 5 heavy lenses, flashes and other accessories, your backpack starts to get very heavy. In Thailand, where I live, this isn't much fun when the temperature gets close to 100 degrees Fahrenheit and relative humidity is close to 100%. In 2013, I moved to the Canon EOS M system. It was very small and compact, great image quality, and because it was made by Canon, I knew it would be reliable. The original EOS M was slow, but the EOS M6 that I upgraded to later proved to be a fantastic camera. My next camera purchase was the one that has given me so many problems, the GoPro Hero 9. So, after many trouble-free years with Canon, why did I buy a GoPro? I run another channel that I started in order to teach people how to read Thai. Very few foreigners who live in or visit Thailand have any interest in the language, and the channel wasn't very successful. I therefore decided to expand the type of content and started doing some walk-around videos. However, despite using image stabilized lenses and my Canon EOS M6 having in-body 5-axis video stabilization, I received comments about shaky footage. To fix this, my logical brain told me to get a gimbal stabilizer, but my sixth sense, my gut feeling, whatever you called it, told me not to. In these situations, I've learned to always trust what my gut tells me, not my brain. My objective with camera equipment is to carry less around, not more. A stabilizer will be another piece of equipment to carry around, another piece of equipment to go wrong, and something else to keep batteries charged. There's also a balancing procedure to go through every time you put the camera on the gimbal or mount a different lens on the camera. I then started to see videos about the hyper-smooth feature on the GoPro cameras. The results looked fantastic and it was just what I wanted. The GoPro was a tiny package that would give me both good image quality and very effective image stabilization. I didn't do any research on GoPro cameras. I'm an old dinosaur who doesn't keep up with all the latest technology. However, I was aware that lots of youngsters who do keep abreast of technology use GoPros, and they would only get the best. In addition, at the time of my purchase, GoPro was on the 9th generation. Manufacturers never get it right first time, but with each new generation of products, they fix existing problems and introduce new features. By the time a manufacturer gets to the 9th generation, the product must be perfect, mustn't it? My first impressions of the GoPro weren't problems exactly, but I soon realised that just buying the camera wasn't enough. To make the GoPro useful for vlogging, the media mod, additional batteries and an external battery charger are essential. GoPro accessories, just like Apple accessories, aren't cheap. The thing that really did bug me though was the unresponsive touchscreen. Everything is done through the touchscreen and it was completely useless. It didn't respond when I wanted it to, and while trying to use it I kept selecting options I didn't want to. It was extremely frustrating, but this was eventually fixed with a firmware upgrade. The next major problem was that the camera would keep freezing. When this happened, it was completely unresponsive and unusable. This seemed to happen when I stopped recording and tried to review footage. As soon as I swiped up, the camera would freeze. At first, the only way I could figure out to clear this condition was to remove the battery, which is very inconvenient when you're using the media mod. However, I found out later that the camera can be reset by pushing the record and on-off buttons simultaneously. I did some research and found that lots of other people were having the same problem. In the GoPro forum, there are lots of unhappy users, but what GoPro wasn't doing was acknowledging the problem. The standard response seemed to be that people were using the wrong memory cards or had corrupted firmware. I upgraded my SanDisk Ultra SD card to a SanDisk Extreme card, even though the card I was using should have been fine for low resolution video. I only shoot in 1080p, not 4K. However, the problem kept occurring with the new card, so I contacted GoPro support and was contacted by a very pleasant support rep in the Philippines. He asked me some questions and told me to format the card in my computer, which I did. The next time I used the camera, I got an SD card error immediately, and the camera told me to format the card in the camera. After that, it went back to how it was before. I could use the camera, but it kept freezing. I've just returned from a weekend in Bangkok. I took the GoPro and decided to do a vlog of the trip. The GoPro was fairly well behaved most of the time and didn't freeze too often. And when it does freeze now, I know how to reset it. I recorded over 60 short videos, but near the end of the trip, I got another SD card error. The camera told me that to fix the problem, I had to format the card, and of course, I would lose all my footage. I was furious, as I'd just been to the Grand Palace, where I'd taken lots of video, and I didn't want to lose it. I ignored the format error message and continued to record. Despite the warning, I could still play back all the videos on the camera. It wasn't until I returned home that I had another shock. When I put the SD card into a card reader, only the first 5 videos of my trip showed up. Most weren't visible. But when I looked at the card, I could see that 23 gig had been used. It appeared that the files were still there, but they weren't accessible. I did some quick searches and once again saw that lots of other people had experienced the same problem. My bad experience with GoPro certainly isn't unique. I then started to look around for recovery software. The free versions that were available on the internet would only recover 500 meg, and I needed to recover a lot more. But the software was about $100 or more. I didn't know what to do. For some reason, I then decided to try the Windows scan and repair. The scan told me that my SD card didn't have any problems, but still showed the repair option. I clicked repair, and when it finished, all of my missing files reappeared. I was so happy. It was a huge relief, but because of all the problems I had with the GoPro, I now can't trust it. When I go on my next trip, I'm not sure what I will do. On paper, the GoPro is perfect because of its small form factor, its great image quality, and its features. If it's all working as it should do, it's a fantastic little camera. And the hyper smooth feature I really do love. But when something is as unreliable as this, it's useless. Maybe on the next occasion, Windows won't be able to recover my files. The fanciest car in the world is useless if it breaks down all the time. If it can't be relied upon to get you from A to B, you may just as well buy a Toyota that can be trusted. How can I go to a place where I might never go again and record my visit with this camera, knowing that suddenly, without any warning, everything will be deleted? It's a risk that I'm just not willing to take. I think I still have the option to send the GoPro back, but I'll lose it for a month and I suspect they would tell me there's not a problem. What do I think the problem is? One comment I've read quite a few times is that GoPro was started by surfers, not camera engineers, and I think this has a lot to do with the problem. Also, the company has stuck rigidly to announcing a new camera every year, And once the camera is launched, it seems that all of the development resources then go towards next year's model instead of fixing problems with the existing models. I've also read that the chip used inside the GoPro 9 has been around for a long time. New features are added to the Hero 9 which use more processing power, but maybe this old chip isn't powerful enough to process extra data and that's what's causing it to freeze. I really don't know. I've looked briefly at the issues with the new GoPro 10 and many people are reporting overheating problems. I think that GoPro needs to get away from this obsession with new models every year and just concentrate on fixing problems with the existing models. Anyway, that's my take. If you've had similar issues, please leave a comment below. And if you managed to get this far into the video, thank you for watching.